السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. نبدأ بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، صلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما وعملا وهدى وتقا ورشادا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم فقهنا في الدين وعلمنا التأويل. اللهم إنا نعوذ بك من علم لا ينفع ومن قلب لا يخشع ومن نفس لا تشبع ومن دعوة لا تسمع. نعوذ بك اللهم من هؤلاء الأربع. أما بعد، فحياكم الله جميعا. نعم، حياكم الله جميعا في الدرس 26 في شرح منهج السالكين وتوضيح الفقه في الدين، المؤلف للشيخ عبد الرحمن بن ناصر السعدي، المتوفى سنة 76 و300 وألف للهجرة، رحمه الله رحمة واسعة وأسكنه فسيح جناته. أما بعد، فقد وقفنا في الدرس الماضي عند قول المصنف: وفي الرقة في 200 درهم ربع العشر، فإن لم يكن إلا 90 و100 فليس فيها صدقة إلا أن يشاء ربها. We mentioned about gold and silver, we mentioned about cash, and we were discussing the mas'ala related to gold and silver and which one will be. Lahla, low voice. Just fix this. No. Is it better now, the voice?
Yes, it's better.
Alhamdulillah. So we were discussing the issue whether the cash, is it supposed to be considered like gold, or is it supposed to be considered like silver? Or let's just even broaden this mas'ala and say that what should be considered the nisab in today's world? Should it be the nisab of dhahab, or should it be the nisab of fidda? And the ulama, as we mentioned, that they have had different opinions with regards to what should be considered the nisab in today's world. And some have mentioned that should be fidda. Why do they say it's fidda? Because they say the nisab of fidda is mujma' alayh. There is ijma' on the nisab of fidda, number one. And then number two, they say that the nisab of fidda, or fidda, because its nisab is lower than that of gold, it will be more beneficial for the fuqara. On the other hand, the other ulama, they say that rather the nisab should be determined compared to the dhahab. The nisab of dhahab should be the official nisab of zakat of the athman, and that is because the fidda, its value has drastically changed from the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And as we mentioned, in those times, the nisab of dhahab and fidda, they were they were close to, they had the same value. So for example, 20 مثقالا من ذهب, that means 20 dinaran would mean 200 dirhams, just like the nisab is 200, and the nisab of fidda is 100 dirham, and the nisab of dhahab was 20 مثقالا. So this is this value is close to close to the both of them are similar. This would mean that 20 dinars would equal 200 dirhams in those times. So both were equal. And we have the mention of the 20 mithqal as well in some of the hadith, like in the hadith that has been narrated by Ad-Daraqutni. It mentions the قال ليس في أقل من 20 مثقالا من الذهب شيء ولا في أقل من 200 درهم شيء. This has been حديث عمرو بن شعيب عن أبيه عن جده عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. And this has been narrated by Daraqutni and Ibn Zanjawiyah or Zanjawih في الأموال, etc. So both have been mentioned, 20 مثقالا, 20 دينارا, and 100 درهم, 200 dirhams, both have been mentioned in the hadith. Also, on the other hand, we have the the nisab of sariqa. What is the nisab of sariqa, ikhwan? What does that mean?
Is it like theft? Are you asking, Sheikh?
Yes, theft. Yani, what does it mean, the nisab of theft?
It is rubu' dinar, 1/4, right?
No, ربع dinar, and for fidda, how much is it? Yani generally they mention, yani, because ربع dinar has been mentioned in the ahadith, right? But yani is yani in some of the يعني أقوال, I'm not sure if it's mentioned in hadith or not, but يعني some of them have mentioned يعني ثلاثة دراهم. Some have mentioned that it is equal to 10 دراهم. يعني هناك أقوال. So if you say مثلا if ربع dinar is equal to ثلاثة دراهم, then this would mean that 1 dinar is equal to 12 dirhams. This is just يعني I'm just giving you, I'm not saying it يعني this is the nisab of sariqa يعني ربع dinar, that's correct, but يعني يعني ثلاثة دراهم يعني هناك طبعا خلاف there is a lot of أقوال and a lot of detail to this مسألة. What I want to say is that generally يعني dinar was close, 1 dinar was close to 10 dirhams. That's the point that I want to make here. 1 dinar is generally close to 10 dirhams. So that is why the Prophet ﷺ يعني set this as the nisab. يعني we have 200 dirhams and we have 20 مثقالا. Now, when the value changes drastically, then there is a problem. And that is that the nisab of fidda يعني comes down يعني by يعني a very large amount. So for example, يعني in those times, if we say it was equal to the same as the nisab of dhahab, then يعني in our times, let's say if the gold prices today are 200 riyals, so that would be yani, the nisab would be 17,000 riyals. But on the other hand, silver, for example, yani, its nisab has dropped down to 1,500 riyals. So now from 17,000 to 1,500, that is too big a change. And the Sharia generally does not come up with such variable values. Yani the Sharia usually when it yani attaches its ahkam to something, it is usually something that is easily determined and does not drastically change, because there are a lot of hikam that are attached with it. And from those hikam, for example, is the fact that the zakat is to be taken from the aghniya. As mentioned in the hadith of Mu'adh, يعني فأبلغهم أن الله افترض عليهم صدقة تؤخذ من أغنيائهم وترد على فقرائهم. It will be taken from the wealthy ones from amongst them. It will be returned back to their poor ones. So here يعني we understand from this hadith that one of the maqasid of zakat or nisab is to determine who is wealthy and who is not wealthy. So we find that the rest of the things, their value has pretty much remained constant. For example, camels, goats, sheep, etc. But fidda has, the value has crashed, you can say, in our times, and it is no longer, you can say, according to this call, it's no longer, you can say, suitable to be set as the standard for the nisab, and hence the nisab should be looked into according to dhahab. We should look into the nisab should be set in accordance with the nisab of the dhahab of gold. So these are the two aqwal, and والذي يظهر والله أعلم, what seems to be the case or seems to be sounded of the two opinions, wallahu a'lam, is the second one, that it should be determined according to the nisab of dhahab, according to the nisab of dhahab. And they have very good arguments that they have presented. For example, yani, they mention, for example, that um, uh, They say that إن 5 إبل أو 40 شاة تساوي قيمتها أو قيمتها نحو 400 دينار أو جنيه. يعني they say that 5 camels or يعني 40 يعني goats, sheep, they يعني in our times they are equal to 400 dinars or 400 جنيه which is pound أو أكثر. فكيف يعد شارع من يملك 4 من الإبل أو 39 من الغنم فقيرا؟ He says, how is it possible that the Sharia, which is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the Sharia generally, it considers someone who has only 39 goats or 4 camels as someone who is faqir, or someone who upon whom the zakat is not wajib, even if it's not faqir. ثم يوجب الزكاة على من يملك نقدا لا يشتري به شاة واحدة. On the other hand, it has made zakat wajib on someone يعني in نقد يعني in terms of the أثمان يعني في الذهب الفضة يعني someone who can't even buy, let's say, 2 goats in that value, he's supposed to pay zakat. So يعني this يعني standard يعني this is not a suitable standard for يعني for غنى يعني for this is not a suitable criterion for wealthiness and for غنى, and rather the nisab of dhahab is a more suitable one for ghina. Likewise, yani some of the ulama, like for example, Shah Waliullah al-Dehlawi, in his book Hujjatullah al-Baligha, he mentions مثلا إنما قدر النصاب بخمس أواق 5 أواق من الفضة يعني it's the same amount as you mentioned لأنها مقدار يكفي أقل أهل بيت سنة كاملة. This amount, this is which was 5 أواق من الفضة, it is enough for يعني for the lowest or the least of the household with the lowest amount of number of members of the household, for it will be enough for them for the whole year. إذا كانت الأسعار موافقة في أكثر الأقطار واستقرئ عادات البلاد المعتدلة أو عادات البلاد المعتدلة في الرخص والغلاء تجد ذلك. He says يعني generally you will find this value if the prices are يعني moderate, you will find that this amount would be enough for them to يعني spend for the whole year. So is it possible now that 1500 riyals you can spend it for the whole year? طبعا لا. طبعا لا, because now the value of يعني the fidda has been drastically reduced. So these are some of the أقوال of the ulama. Both have يعني حجة قوية. We are not saying that the other qawl is يعني weak or it is يعني it doesn't have حجة, but يعني of course there can be tarjih, and there can be one qawl can seem to someone being you know, you can say heavier, more sound than the other one, and other يعني someone else, another طالب علم can look at it يعني from another perspective, and to him it would seem that the first qawl is better. So يعني there is no issue with that. طيب لحظة. طيب ننتقل الآن إلى المسألة التالية. قال فيها لحظة واحدة. هنا just wanted to mention طيب inshallah if I find it I will mention to you يعني the value of one أوقية. How much is an أوقية this unit? بإذن الله تعالى. طيب ننتقل الآن للمسألة الثانية. قال ومن بلغت عنده
Just one
الإبل.
question, sir.
تفضل.
Sheikh, this one clarification, like the dinar was the gold coin which was like prevalent in the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and dirham was the silver coin. Is this correct? Like,
Yes, it is correct.
Okay.
بارك الله. لحظة. Okay, they say, for example, they say that one uqiyah of fidda is سبعة مثاقيل or 119 grams fidda. سبعة مثاقيل or 119 grams of fidda, which would be multiplied by 595. So in some of the hadith, it mentions khamsu awaq, right? So they mentioned that uqiyah is 119 grams. So you multiply it with 5 and you get 595. But here the mithqal, what is the value of mithqal? What's the weight of mithqal here is a question. Or there in dinar, we said with 1 dinar is 4.25 grams, but that doesn't work here. 4.25 grams, you can't consider it. You can't have for يعني مثلا 7 مثاقيل is 1 أوقية according to some. لا يحتاج إلى نظر. This one needs a bit of أوقية. I need to look into أوقية again. But generally they mention is 119 grams. So, but we need to look into in terms of مثقال, and is the مثقال of فضة different to the مثقال of ذهب? How does this work? Anyways, قال ومن بلغت عنده الإبل صدقة الجذعة وليست عنده جذعة. طبعا يا إخوان, which one is جذعة? How old is جذعة in the إبل? 1, 2, or 3, or 4? جذعة. How old is جذعة? It's a 4-year-old camel, right? The 1-year-old is called بنت المخاض, 2-year-old بنت لبون, then we have حقة, then we have جذعة. صح? So the one who is supposed to give the sadaqah of جذعة. So do you remember when is he supposed to give the sadaqah of جذعة? In 25 you have to give bintu makhab. In 36 you have to give bintu labun. In 46 you have to give hiqqa. And in 61 you have to give جذعة. So when بلغت عنده الإبل صدقة الجذعة وليست عنده جذعة. He doesn't have a جذعة وعنده حقة. He has a حقة, a 3-year-old camel. فإنها تقبل منه الحقة. You will take the حقة from him. ويجعل معها شاتان أو يجعل معها شاتين. He should add to it يعني 2 goats, 2 sheep in استيسرت له, if that is easy for him. أو 20 درهم. And he is taking from different ahadith. The Musannif is taking this from different ahadith. That is why at the end of these Masaa'il he says رواه البخاري, but it's actually not like one particular hadith that he is referring to. Rather, it is different ahadith that he is referring to. And he says that رواه البخاري, in the different ahadith that have been mentioned by البخاري رحمه الله. ثم قال ومن بلغت عنده صدقة الحقة وليست عنده الحقة. حقة 3-year-old, and it's supposed to be given as how many iblis should you have in order for it to be mandatory to give a حقة?
46.
أحسنت. طيب إذا وعنده الجذعة فإنها تقبل منه الجذعة. The 4-year-old it can be taken from him. ويعطيه المصدق. Who is a مصدق أو مصدق? Who is a musaddiq? مصدق يعني the agent, the عامل. المصدق when you give him 20 درهما أو شاتي. So likewise, the other way around. طيب ثم قال وفي حديث معاذ أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أمره أن يأخذ من كل 30 بقرة أمره أن يأخذ من كل 30 بقرة تبيعا أو تبيعة ومن كل 40 مسنة رواه أهل السنة. So what is he doing in this mas'ala? He's giving you the dalil for the Masaa'il of Baqarah. For the Masaa'il of Baqarah. So what is the age of the tabi' or tabi'ah? What is the age of the tabi' or tabi'ah?
It is 1 year.
أحسنتم. And what is the age of the musinna?
This is 2 years old.
بارك الله. طيب إذن قال يعني he should take for each one يعني for every 30 he should take a tabi' or tabi'ah, and for every 40 musinna. نعم. طيب, why is it called tabi' or tabi'ah? Because they say that a 1-year-old cow usually follows the mother. يقولون يعني سمي بذلك لأنهما يتبعان أمهما. They always follow the mother. And as for the musin and musinna, because يعني it has يعني usually in this age after 2 years it has يعني the milk teeth have usually fallen, so it's called musinna. يعني دخلت في الإسنان أو دخلت في هذا السن هذه السن. And after that after يعني if it is 50 كيف نتصرف؟ يعني how about if it is 50?
The 50 is like a
tabi' or musinna? It will be one of them, right? But when it comes to 60, then how much will you be giving? You will be giving 2 tabi'an. If it is 70, then 1 tabi' and 1 musinna. And if it is 80, then 2 musinna. If it is 90, then 3 tabi'. وهكذا.
Can you please repeat? Connection was lost for 20 seconds, 30 seconds.
لا بأس. I'm saying يعني when it comes to 50 baqar, if you have 50 cows, then in this case there will be only 1 tabi'. Then there will be only 1 tabi'. But when it comes to 60, sorry, astaghfirullah, 50, there will be musinna, just like it is for 40. But when it comes to 60, now it can be divided into 30 and multiples of 30 or 40, right? So from 60 onwards, you'll be giving 2 tabi', 70, 30 plus 40, so 1 tabi' and 1 musinna, 80. So you can divide it into 40, which will mean musinna, 2 musinnas. 90, you can give 3 tabi'. 100, you can divide it into 2 tabi' and 1 musinna. 110, likewise. This is clear, inshallah? 110, how will you divide 110? What will you give if you have 110 cows?
Sheikh, is my voice audible?
Now it's audible.
Sheikh, actually, the network is like dropping every minute, I think. Can you please repeat, please? Can you please repeat 1 minute?
This is
whatever you said 1 minute ago.
No issue. This is similar to what we did with the camels, if you remember, that we used to calculate hiqqa or jad'a or يعني bint labun and hiqqa. Remember?
Yes, Sheikh.
Yes. So likewise here we also have to calculate similarly for tabi' and musinna, how to adjust them in multiples of 30 and 40. So my question was like, if you have 110 cows, what will you be giving out in sadaqah?
This will be like 40, 40 and 30. So 2 musinnas and one tabi.
أحسن. 2 مسنز and 1 تبيع. بارك الله فيك. أحسن. هو هكذا.
Sheikh, just one question.
اتفضل.
This is also like in case of cow, for camel also, like, so like if it is like 111, so like one will only give, like it will just be like 2 musinnas and 1 tabi. This will be till 1119. So once it reaches
Yes.
120, then it will change.
Yes. ممتاز. ممتاز. Yes, that's how it will be. أحسنت. طيب ننتقل الآن إلى المسألة التالية. قال زكاة الأثمان والخارج من الأرض. طبعا this is the heading that has been added يعني by the محقق. It's not part of the يعني كلام المصنف. قالوا أما صدقة الأثمان. أثمان طبعا we mentioned it refers to the ذهب الفضة. فقد تقدم أنه ليس فيها شيء حتى تبلغ 200 درهم وفيها ربع العشر. If it reaches 200 dirham, then there is ربع العشر in it. يعني 200 dirhams, then you have to give 2.5% out of it. ثم قال يعني we have يعني in detail we have discussed this مسألة. Let's move on to the next one. وأما صدقة الخارج من الأرض من الحبوب والثمار. صدقة الخارج من الأرض. خارج من الأرض refers to, as we mentioned previously as well, crops and the agricultural produce generally. من الحبوب والثمار. الحبوب. What is حبوب referring to?
This is like the grains which we put
ممتاز.
for agricultural produce.
And what is ثمار referring to?
Thimar, this refers to the fruits,
Fruits.
like dates,
أحسنت.
etc.
Okay. طيب. So هنا ذكر يعني حبوب والثمار. Would there be a صدقة يعني واجبة on all kinds of ثمار or only particular kinds of ثمار? Is there any ضابط for it? What kinds of ثمار is it wajib on? يعني are we also supposed to, for example, give out zakat for apples and bananas, for example?
This is for like that can be stored, like the word is mudakhar. Is this the word?
مدخر.
Mudakhar. That can be stored for a long time. Like.
أحسنتم. That can be يعني dried and stored for a longer time. This is the kind of the fruit on which the zakat is wajib. So مثلا this is what has been mentioned by the Hanabila as the ضابط for the fruits and the grains upon which zakat is wajib. يعني فيما يكال ويدخر. يكال يعني that is measured in units of volume. طبعا in the time of the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم. And يدخر, which is stored. So which is stored is the most important here. What is the meaning of iddikhar, storing? It means that it is possible to dry it and then store it for a long period of time without it يعني, being subject to any kind of يعني, fasad. It shouldn't. How would we say in English يعني, يعني تفسد الثمار? How would you say it in English when a fruit يعني, goes bad? What is it called in English?
Is it like rotten?
Yes, when it gets rotten. So this is the ضابط or the meaning of iddikhar, that it can be dried and stored for a long period of time. طيب. ثم ذكر المصنف هنا قال فقد قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم ليس فيما دون 5 أوسق من التمر صدقة. طبعا يا إخوان, there is ijma' upon there being صدقة on hinta, which is like wheat, and sha'ir, which is barley, and tamr, which is dates, and zabib. And zabib is the grapes, dried grapes, you can say that. So there is ijma' on this, and the other fruits there is khilaf based on what is the dabit? What are the kind of amwal upon which zakat is wajib? And they say that it is wajib on that which can be stored for a long time. No. And one of the reasons they mention is لأنه تكمل به النعمة فإن ما لا يدخر لا تكمل فيه النعمة لعدم الانتفاع به مآلا. What is the reason that this in particular, those foods that can be stored, you have to pay zakat for it, because these are the ones that you can benefit from for a longer time. So this is like a more complete, more perfect ni'mah than when compared to other foods which can be only benefited from for a very short period of time. So those foods we can benefit from for a short period of time, the chances of you can say a loss or bearing loss in it is greater. But those that can be stored for a longer period of time, you can benefit from it by consuming it or by selling it, etc. So these are the kind of things that have long-term benefits, which are usually zakat, subject to zakat. Okay. ثم قال ليس فيما دون 5 أوسق من التمر صدقة. 5 أوسق, one وسق is يعني 60 صاعا. 60 صاعا. And 5 أوسق means 300 صاع. 300 صاع. And what is 1 صاع? 1 صاع is equal to 4 مد. 4 أمداد. So, and 1 mud is like a handful. 1 mud is like a handful. So in 1 sa' you have 4 amdad, and in 1 wasq you have 60 sa'as, and hence in khamsat awsuq you have 300 sa', which means 1200 handfuls or 1200 amdad, mud. Right. The question is this a unit of volume? Is it a unit of weight?
This is a unit of volume.
أحسنتم. Then the weight for each kind of fruit will differ from, or each kind of grain will differ from sa' to sa'. Yani for example, 1 sa' of tamr, would it be necessarily equal to 1 sa' of rice?
No, it will not be necessarily equal.
Ahsant. Yani, so it is not correct to define the sa' in terms of kilograms. You cannot say, for example, 2 liters is always equal to 2 kilograms. This is not a correct statement. Depends on 2 liters of what. If it is 2 liters of water, okay, then it will be 2 kilograms. But if it is 2 liters of honey, it will be much heavier than 2 kilograms, right? So it is incorrect to make the statement and define the sa' using weight. It should always be kept to the to the units of volume. Right. Now the question is how many how many milliliters is 1 sa'? How many liters or milliliters is 1 sa'? هم ذكروا that 1 mud is equal to 0.688 liters. Yani 688 milliliters. 688 milliliters is like you might have seen the water bottles that are mineral water bottles. Usually they are available. They're usually 600 milliliters. So that is almost a mud. 1 mud is equal to almost that 0.6 milliliter, 0.6 liter water bottle, and 1 sa' will be equal to 2.752 liters. 2.752 liters. So 1 sa' is equal to 2.752 liters. ممكن تكتبون هذا 0.688 liters for 1 mud, and you multiply it with 4, and you get the value of 1 sa', which is 2.75. طيب قال والوسق 60 صاعا فيكون النصاب للحبوب والثمار 300 صاع. 3 because it's the خبر كان 300 صاع بصاع النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. And صاع النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يعني is almost equal to 2.752 liters. وقال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم فيما سقت السماء والعيون أو كان عثريا. What is the meaning of فيما سقت السماء والعيون? يعني that which has been watered by the heavens, يعني the rain. والعيون springs. طيب فيما سقط
naturally.
Nature, أحسن. This is the purpose. Something that has been irrigated, lands that have been irrigated naturally. فيما سقط السماء والعيون أو كان عثريا العشر. There is 1/10. يعني you are supposed to give the zakat 1/10 that for which that has been يعني irrigated naturally. وفيما سقي بالنضح. What is the meaning of نضح here?
That is like manually, like given the water has been given.
أحسنت. نضح generally means to sprinkle the water. يعني and it's referring here to يعني pouring the water. So if it is يعني يعني done manually by the efforts of يعني man, then in this case يعني you have to give نصف العشر because one has invested in his efforts and his money into it, of course, in arranging the irrigation, so he has to pay lesser zakat. طيب what is the meaning of أو كان عثريا? العثري, it refers to يعني those you can say crops or plants that يعني that absorb the water by themselves. For example, if the water is it's collected in one place, and then the trees that are around that water, they end up absorbing that rainwater by themselves. So this is عثريا. يعني the rainwater that gets collected in it and it absorbs it by itself. يعني it's generally like سقط السماء والعيون, but here عثريا is like the rainwater also gets collected. So and these kind of plants or crops, they benefit from the the collected rainwater, and they keep absorbing water from it. This is called عثريا. So because maybe not necessarily it would be the case that that the rainwater directly falls upon these crops. So maybe it's led to these crops somehow. For example, there is some kind of a stream that flows, and these crops then get irrigated due to this natural water, and then they keep absorbing it. So generally, the maqsood here is that it should be naturally irrigated. Then in this case, there will be ushur, and if it is done manually, then there is rubu ushur. What about if it is half the year naturally irrigated, and half the year it is irrigated by man's efforts?
Sheikh, would it be like middle of the 7.5?
نعم, in this case 7.5. On the other hand, if you remember, السائمة من بهيمة الأنعام, we did not say that it will be, somewhere in the middle. For example, we said that Saima is the one that for most of the year it grazes on naturally grown pastures, fields, and we did not say that if it is half the year it grazes on naturally grown meadows and pastures, and the other half of the year the owner has to feed it. We didn't say that here in this case, it will be considered half a Saima. Over there, it was black and white. Here we also have, we also take into consideration if it is half the year, then 7.5. So we have either 10% or 5%, and if it is half and half, then 7.5. واضح هذا? So remember that in Saima, this is not to be done. But here in Hubub and Thimar, you have to take into consideration half the year as well. So they say it in this way because they can say, for example, the first half of the year, the wajib was ushur. So because of it was irrigated naturally. In the next half of the year, it was irrigated manually. So the wajib was rubu' ushur. Bring it together and it becomes 7.5%.
Sheikh, can I ask?
Yes.
Like if it is like mostly natural, like or mostly manual, like 10 months, or like 1 month is only natural, or 1 month is only artificial, naturally, so manually. So we will consider like we'll approximate it, right? To like if it is 10 months naturally fed, so we'll consider it to be like natural. And if it is 10 months manually fed and only 1 or 2 months rain, dependence on rainfall, so we'll consider it manual.
If it is most of it is any natural, then you will consider it natural. And in 10 months, for example, it's naturally irrigated, then it will take the ruling of the naturally irrigated one, and hence you will have to give out ushur. On the other hand, if it's 10 months, for example, manually irrigated, then it will take the same ruling. And we wouldn't be, you can say, determining and evaluating different, you can say, miqdar of zakat depending on each month. And we have this أغلبي, قاعدة أغلبية, half, عشر, ربع العشر, and 7.5. عرفتم؟
نعم شيخ.
نعم. طيب لحظة أنا طيب. ثم قال الشيخ رحمه الله: وعن سهل بن أبي حثمة أنه قال: أمرنا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إذا خرصتم فخذوا ودعوا الثلث، فإن لم تدعوا الثلث فدعوا الربع. What is the meaning of خرص? What is the meaning of خرص?
Khars is like is this word also in Quran, like kharrasun?
قتل الخراصون الذين هم في غمرة ساهون. نعم. What is the meaning of خراصون over there? قتل الخراصون. هنا it's actually referring to something else. I'm not sure what's the meaning here. قتل الخراصون. قال ابن جزي: خراصون دعاء فقد خاطر. والخراصون الكذابون. أصل الخرص التخمين والقول بالظن والإشارة للكفار. Okay, he says خرص generally is sort of saying something based on conjectures. So this estimation is also called خرص. Estimation is also called خرص because you are basing this evaluation and estimation on one. sometimes this is positive, like in this case, and in other times, like it's mentioned in Qutil al-Kharrasun, it is in negative terms. So khars means estimating. So what is the job of or what is the use, or what relation does khars have to the masail that we are discussing?
Like estimate the amount of the value. We are estimating the value of the crops. The amount.
The amount, yes. So when is it estimated? The estimation is made, for example, if there is tamr, and it hasn't yet, قد بدا صلاحها, it's now, it has started to become ripe, but right now it's not the time exactly for harvest. But the zakat agent, for example, he comes and he has to, take an estimation of how much will be the yield for this year. So this is the job of the of the kharis. So he comes and he estimates what will be the yield, and then based on this, they will ask you for whatever zakat is required. So when he says, إذا خرجتم فخذوا ودعوا الثلث فإن لم تدعوا الثلث فدعوا الربع. What is it mentioning? What is it saying? What should you, why should you leave, or 1/3 or 1/4 of what should you be leaving out? Here it is referring to, there are two interpretations of this hadith. One interpretation of this hadith is that when you are making the estimation, then as a precaution, leave out 1/3 or 1/4 as a precaution, so that you don't take extra. And the other interpretation of the hadith is that once you have made this estimation of the fruit, then you take يعني you take the sadaqah and you leave 1/3 of it or 1/4 of it for the owner to distribute himself. For the owner to distribute himself. And when it comes to the estimation, he has to take into consideration all of the fruit that there is. And this is the madhab of the Ahnaf in Malikiya and qawl of Shafi'i in Jadid, and this is also the ikhtiyar of Sheikh Muhammad ibn Uthaymeen, that the kharis is supposed to take estimation of all of the fruit and he should not leave out anything when he is taking the estimation. And the hadith means that when he is taking the zakat with him, he should leave some for the owner to distribute himself. Leave some for the owner to distribute himself. So this is the meaning of the hadith according to them. And the others, they say, like Ibn Hazm and Abu Yusuf from the Ahnaf, and some of the Hanabila, likewise Abu Ubaid al-Qasim Salam, Sahib Kitab al-Amwal, they say that they should leave something, he should not take all of the fruit into estimation, rather he should leave something as kind of a precaution. Wallahu a'lam. طيب. ننتقل الآن إلى
Can I ask
zakat.
a question?
Yes, please. تفضل.
This first opinion, like that is leave aside 1/3 or 1/4, like, so this is like the one who is guessing, or the one who has been assigned this task, so he will like suppose if it is 1,000 kilos the crop, so he will leave aside maybe like if it is 10,000 kilos, he will leave aside maybe like 2,500, like, and then he will take zakat on that remaining 7,500.
This is according to the first quote.
Yes.
So if he is estimating, he will estimate only any 3/4 or any he will leave some kind of an amount as a precaution. This is the any all those who interpret the hadith is in this way, they say that it's up to the kharis, it's up to the one to the agent who is making the estimation to leave out some amount as a precaution. Now, this is the first qawl. And according to the second qawl, for example, out of 10,000 kilos, if he is supposed to give out 1,000 kilo, then how many kilos will he leave out for him to distribute, for the owner to distribute? See, zakats of 10,000 kilos, al-ushr will be 1,000, right? If he's giving 1,000 kilos in zakat, then the agent is required or asked to leave 1/4 of it or 1/3 of it, that is like 250 kilos or 333 kilos for the owner to distribute the zakat himself. And this is also very, it's wajih, it's a very good interpretation. Why? Because if you remember that one of the reasons why the zakat of the amwal zahira is taken by the government, or it's the fact that the fuqara, they look at these amwal, they are able to witness this wealth and these amwal, and they mentioned, the ulama, they mentioned their hearts become attached to these amwal. So if the government takes the sadaqah away from the city that you are in, for example, to another city, and the fuqara that were based around for example, around your orchard, they are unable to benefit from any of the sadaqah that was attained from your orchard, then this would be against that maqsid of the sharia, that ta'alluq of the qulub of fuqara, etc. So that is why if there is an amount left with the owner so that he can distribute it himself, that would be, this call would also be very, you can say, of considerable strength.
I can ask.
Yes, further.
So this I understood, like, so he's if the like ushur is 1,000 kilos, so he will take maybe 800, around 800, 750 kilos, the collector, and the remaining 250 kilos will be distributed by the owner himself, like the farmer or himself.
Yes.
Like one more, like if the yield is like, if you can calculate it exactly, if there is no guesswork involved, like if it is, if you can calculate it for certain, like what is the yield, what is the production. So
okay,
in that case also this qaida will be applicable when there is no estimation involved.
When it comes to the first qawl, it would be not applicable to this extent of 1/3 or 1/4. Allahu alam. According to the second qawl, yes, it will be applicable, because here the maqsood is, the purpose is that the owner distributes it himself, something, and amongst the fuqara that are around him. So the second interpretation of the hadith, to it will be still applicable.
Okay, so but in that case, if like there is no guesswork, or there is no estimation involved, even if there is no estimation involved, still that the collector should leave aside for the owner to distribute.
Yes, for the owner to distribute himself. This is for the fuqara around him to benefit. Yeah. واضح هذا؟
Yes.
نعم. طيب. لحظة. طيب. ثم قال باب زكاة عروض التجارة. أما عروض التجارة، طيب لا إن شاء الله نكمل عروض التجارة in the next class, because this requires there are a lot of masaa'il that need to be discussed, and this is very important, very relevant to us as well, and very important. So inshallah, let's discuss this in the next class بإذن الله تعالى. نقف هنا، نكتفي بهذا القدر، وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وآله وصحبه أجمعين. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك، نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت، نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.